Hi everyone, it's Lauren here, and I am so excited to be able to bring you this really fun clay project during our summer reading program this year. So I want to talk a little bit about the kit that you got and what's inside of it, and then how we're going to actually make this project. So today we're going to be talking about our special plant mushrooms that we're going to make to put inside plants, which is really fun. They look like this. So it's a two-part project because you're going to have the long stem that goes into your pot and then your mushroom that goes on top. So you're going to be able to make two mushrooms today, and I want to explain this process to you and how we're going to do it. So inside your kit that you received from the library, everyone should have a bag of clay. Now when I'm bagging these, I'm taking all safety precautions. So I'm wearing gloves to make sure there is no spread of germs whatsoever. This is mine that I'm going to use now. So you're going to get a bag of clay. You're going to get a paintbrush. You're going to have a toothpick. And you're going to have a little bit of a container with some red underglaze in it because we're going to be painting these projects a little bit and making some designs in the top for your mushroom, which is really great. So what you want to do when you start is take a piece of clay, and I'm kind of taking one approximately, if I was going to, a little bit smaller than like a pool ball, you know, when you play pool, a little bit smaller than that. And what I'm doing in my hands is just kind of rolling it and trying to round it so it's in a really great ball shape. That's the first step that we want to do for our mushrooms. Now we're going to be repeating this process 2 times because you're going to be making 2 mushrooms for your piece, which is really fun. So I have a really great ball here. It's not perfect, but that's okay. So now what I want to do is cradle it in my hand that I'm not dominant with. So I'm a righty, so I'm putting it in my left hand and I'm just holding it like that, kind of cradling it. And I'm going to take my right hand and I'm going to press into the clay. So we're going to be using a pinch pop technique to make these mushrooms. So I'm going to push my thumb in with some pressure. I don't want to go through to the other side, but I'm going to push in so you can kind of see, right? And now what I'm going to do is pinch around the outside edge. And what I'm trying to achieve is the same thickness the whole way around and in the bottom. I don't want it to be too thick or too thin anywhere. So I'm just going to slowly pinch and turn, pinch and turn, pinch and turn, right? So this is a pinch pop technique. And eventually I can get to a point where I don't have to hold it in my hand. I can actually get both of my thumbs in there and even start to turn it a little bit. See, I can use my fingers, but what I'm constantly doing is turning my piece so I don't pinch one side too thin. I want it to all be approximately the same width. And the width that I'm trying to achieve is like the thickness of my pinky. So that's a really good reference, like size, thickness to think of. Try to make it the thickness of your pinky. So I'm now just making sure this bottom part, the part that's right down here, is the same thickness as well. So I'm kind of just pinching from the inside and out, applying pressure to make sure that part is the same thickness. So here's my shape. Now, at this point, you can use your finger, your best tool ever for clay, and you can kind of smooth out the edges if you really want to. And if you handle your clay too much, sometimes it can get a little bit dry and you might see a few cracks. Now, we are going to be painting these, so those will probably be covered up. But if you absolutely must, you could get a little container with some water and just dip your finger in and rub on there, and that'll help get rid of your cracks as well. So the next step that we need to do is make the long sticks, these long parts, right, that are going to go inside our mushroom. Because remember, we're going to be putting these in a plant or in our garden, so they're going to be in there a little ways. So we have the stem and then a huge part that's going to be stuck into the ground or in our plant. So in order to do that, this is what you need to do. You want to take another piece of your clay, about the same amount actually, about the same size ball. Rolling it in my hands. I like to always start with a ball shape. I think it's a little easier. Now to do these long stems, we're going to be rolling it on our table. Now prior to doing any of that, I always like to try to make the shape that I'm going to be making so it's easier to do and I don't have to do as much work. So what I want to do is take this ball now that I have, And I'm gonna try to elongate it. So I'm gonna try to make it almost into the shape of the long stem before I even roll it on the table. So all I'm doing is squeezing and kind of turning so that it's approximately the same width the whole way down. I don't want one part thinner and one part thicker at all. I just kind of want to achieve the right shape before I even roll it on my table. So I'm doing that because my goal is to roll as least amount as possible. So let me turn down my camera so you can see what I'm doing. Dun dun. Okay, so here's like my clay on my table. All right, so what I'm gonna do is take my hands and I'm pressing right here primarily, okay? So where my fingers connect to my palm, and I'm kind of gently rolling just in that area. I lift up and I go to the next. I don't want to press too hard or too long in one area because then it'll get too thin. And now again, I'm trying to achieve pinky thickness. Pinky is a great source of reference. And that looks pretty good to me. Yay! Okay, so you're gonna be repeating this process 2 times too. So you're gonna have 2 long stems of your mushrooms, and you're gonna be having 2 mushroom caps, right? So I already made another one. So I have 2 of these made. Now comes the fun part. So at this stage, you might have to wait a little bit because sometimes you want your clay to firm up a little bit before you paint, so it's a little bit easier to. But what you're gonna be doing is taking your little cup. Now inside here is what's called underglaze. So when we paint this on, if I were to just fire this, it would not be shiny at all. It would just look kind of like dry. Because what I'm gonna do is after you bring them and I fire them, I'm gonna put on a clear coat so it's nice and shiny, right? Can you see the shine from my sunlight out the window? It'll get nice and shiny on your piece. But this provides the color underneath. So I'm just gonna put clear shiny on. So you're gonna take your paintbrush, you're gonna go in here, and you're gonna be wanting to paint 2 coats on top of your mushroom caps. So here we go, let me put you down again. All right. So you can be pretty generous when you put it on the first time. And if you have a different brush at home that you wanna use, feel free, that's okay. So I'm just painting this on. And if you paint pretty thick, you can probably get away with 1 coat, but if you do 2 coats, it'll definitely be better. And you can see, I can kind of see some streaks when I'm painting. It's because my clay is a little bit wet. But what I'm going to do is paint my whole mushroom cap, just the top, not underneath, just the top. I'm going to be painting that whole thing with this red underglaze. So let's make pretend I did that. Just because it's so much easier. We'll make pretend. So that I painted this whole cap, which I'm totally gonna do because I think these are adorable and I would love more around my house and in my gardens. But you wanna paint this whole thing. And then in your kit that you received, everyone should have a toothpick. So a toothpick, we're gonna be using this to carve into that red underglaze that we just painted. Usually I wait 1 day. So I'll paint, and then the next morning is when I carve. Or you can wait a couple hours later because we want that paint to dry completely. And we want our clay to get what's called leather hard. So that means it's not super pliable, but it's not dried out all the way. So we want it to get to that kind of firm consistency where it still feels cold because that is perfect for carving. So you can use a toothpick to carve in your designs. It's just like using a pencil. Or speaking of pencil, if you have a colored pencil or a regular pencil that's kind of dull in your house, you could actually use this to carve your designs. This works really good. A toothpick is great for fine details, but I actually almost recommend a pen, or even a pen, a ballpoint pen or a pencil work great. So you can see here on this one, what I did is and I actually used a pencil, I just made lines going down, and when I did that, it pulled away the red underglaze and it revealed the white clay underneath, which is really fun. So think about it this way. Everything you carve will turn to white clay. Everything you leave is gonna stay that great red color. So you could decide to do like polka dots so it looks like a toadstool mushroom. You could do something really intricate. You could do mandalas. You could do words if you wanted to. Anything. You could carve cat faces, whatever you want to do is totally, totally fine. But what you're going to do is carve whatever designs you want into the two tops of your mushrooms. And now this is a really important part, super important. So make sure you do it. You want to carve your name or initials into all four pieces. So somewhere along the stem, write your initials or names. And on the inside, I would do it inside here or maybe like on this rim part, put your initials or name as well. That is so important. I cannot stress it, because if we have all these people making them at the library, we want to make sure we know whose is whose. Although your designs will be pretty unique to you, it's still good to do that. So you could do that one of two ways. I could just carve right into the clay with something, or if I had a little bit of extra red underglaze, I could just make a little paint dot. I could even do it on my stem, like where it's going to go into the ground, and then just carve so there's some red and then you can see the white signature of your name or initials. So I am so excited for you to make these. I can't wait to see the finished results. I think you're going to love them. By the time you return them to the library, it's going to take me approximately 2 weeks to get them completed and back to the library to give to you, because I need to wait for them to fully dry out, and I need to fire them the first time, paint on the clear, and then fire them a second time. So I hope you can be patient. I think it's going to be really wonderful. I think it's going to enhance your gardens or hanging plants or house plants, whatever you decide to put them in. I'm really excited you decided to do this. Thanks for joining me today. Happy summer. Bye.